morning, everyone. Let me just start by saying, you all don't know this, but you're fabulous manifestors. How do I know? Because about 8 years ago, I went to go hear a speaker who spoke about how he, that was his pronoun, applies the principles of new thought in his life. And I said, that's what I want to do. So all of you conspired to bring me here today. Thank you. Really, manifestation happens in our lives all the time. We just don't look for it. I remember the feeling that I had at that moment when I saw that person. And I felt the feeling that brought me to this place, and that's the feeling that I have now. When I was sitting over there, the feeling kind of felt a little bit like butterflies, and they were jumping up and down, and I was fiddling, trying to just release the energy. But when Rebecca said my name, all of a sudden the feeling was this feeling of comfort and of love and of appreciation and gratitude and yada, yada, yada. You know what I mean? It's the feeling tone that lets us know that we have what limited that 18 inches between here and here. And it's from that place that I will do my best to share with you what I think I understand of the principles, because that's all I commit to doing. You take the pieces that work for you and you run out of the door screaming. Because that's what I'm going to do. You know, in the Science of Mind textbook, it teaches us, we, those in the room and those who are streaming, it teaches human beings how to be just that, because we are really energy beings. But on this planet, in this skin that I'm in, with this hair that does what it likes to do, I'm a human being, and I'm learning. I'm in Earth School. Have you heard of that before? I really, really believe in this concept of Earth School. And so what Ernest Holmes is teaching to Ayo, and that's from which I speak, it's how to experience heaven here on Earth. And while there are so many experiences that I keep repeating, today I want to talk about the power of a life of freedom. So on page 108 of the Science of Mind text, Ernest Holmes writes, freedom of will means the ability to do, say, and think as one wishes, to express life as one personally desires, to be able merely to think and dream of freedom would not be liberty. So what is he saying? Right? Because I had to read that several times. Like, what is this guy getting at? What he's doing is he's saying, get out of your head, get into your heart. Demonstrations. You've got to treat and move your feet, bless you. Holmes is saying, not only are we free to think it, but we're free to make it happen. Make it ours. Make heaven on earth ours. And that means different things to different people. And what I have learned is through my life, it has meant completely different things at different times. And that's the part that kind of gets me a little bit, because I'm always wondering who's keeping the secret of my happiness from me. Why wouldn't the secret of my happiness just be told? And I don't know about you, but I certainly have spent some of my life looking for others to tell me the secret of my happiness. Why? Because they look happy. So I'm thinking maybe they can help me. Maybe they've got the magic potion. And I've learned it doesn't work like that. But let me just say, the fact that I stand in front of you and I say it doesn't work like that really doesn't mean I have a better handle on it. As a matter of fact, it means that now I have a greater responsibility to it. And that greater responsibility, it keeps me required to be prayed up. It keeps me in practitioner sessions. It keeps me in classes. And it also keeps me out there trying new things. So in the same section, Ernest Holmes also writes, It is a solace to the mind when we come to understand that all human limitation from the standpoint of the divinity within is unnecessary. What the heck is he saying? I wish he could write it like in 2021 terms. I think what he's saying is this: the divinity within us is love. We talk about self-love. And self-love is really about the recognition of that spark. Wherever it is that you think it may be in your body, it doesn't have to be in this place that we call heart. Yours could be in your left big toe. I don't care. Doesn't matter. What's important is that you know it exists. And when we find in ourselves the courage to have that belief, when we live in love, and that's when we're living in freedom. You know, we get sort of caught up, or at least I have been caught up, thank goodness for the people around me who are always, telling me stories to get caught up in. Be careful. You don't want to wear red. Red's not your color. You don't want to drive that car. It's not safe. All of those things, they create ideas in my head. I don't know about you. Please don't let it be you. Just let it be me. It's not you, it's me. But those ideas begin to manifest. How do they manifest? If you look in my closet, I have nothing red. But if I go out with a friend and she picks out a dress that's red and I put it on and my heart sings, what's that saying when I don't buy it? Whose life am I living, and where is the freedom? As religious scientists, new thought thinkers, people of the universe, however you want to identify yourself, if you choose to identify yourself, let's all believe that the ultimate goal of life is just to be in a complete emancipation from all discord of any nature. Can we just have the freedom and the courage, the thought, the idea, the wish, the dream, to live as if no one is watching, sing as if no one can hear, dance as if the music is only yours? Raise your hand if you have that courage, and you can only have the courage as long as it takes you to raise your hand. But I guarantee you, raise your hand more often, and you will be amazed at how strong that courage muscle becomes. So up until now, I've lived the tendency to allow my consciousness to be infected by old thoughts, things on TV, friends, people who really mean well. People who have had experiences that they just are afraid for me to have. And what should we call them? What's a good term to call it? When people share with us, people who love us, share their fears with us. What do we call that? Vulnerable. Vulnerable, yes. Any other ideas, any other terms you might think of? Authentic. Courage. Yeah. But when we think about this concept of love, and that all of us walk around with this seed of love, no matter how tapped in we are to it, it's there. You can't dispose of it. It's never going away. You can't cut it out. You can't give it away. You can try to ignore it, but it's still going to say, I'm here. So when we're all walking around with that seed, if I've got that seed, I know each of you has that seed too. And when you speak to me, no matter how it may feel, somewhere that seed is a part of that. And that's the part, that knowing, that understanding that I have. Just I may have it, I may be alone in this. But it's the understanding that somewhere, everybody has that seed of love that really makes it harder for me to just be able to be angry and to discount and whatever else I could throw in to develop. But it makes me more responsible then for understanding what the heck are the thoughts in my head. What the heck am I thinking about? What am I understanding about who I am? And I'll tell you, my understanding, it is continuously changing. Why it changes every time I have a new experience. Even though that new experience could be the same experience with a new awareness. I see something else. I see a light that I didn't know was there. I see something in me that just inspires me. And I recognize that I then, wow, I have manifested. And I come back to where it started. Here I am. I walk around light. I'm not going to walk around the thing. This is my dream. The only thing is I'm wearing shoes. He was not wearing shoes. But one day, I may be shoeless, walking around and sharing and picking up the energy from the group. Why? Because we're one. So let's get back to this freedom. There's so many teachers. We're all teachers. And over the weekend, our dear Carol Pearson's book was right in my audible ear. Yay! I'm talking about Persephone Rising, where she offers insight and talks about how we can find our path by making choices that empower us. So when I saw Carol walking the day, I was like, oh my, another manifestation. So I'm going to talk to you, I want to share what I call my pothole story. Just kind of give an example of how we pull things into our consciousness. Because our consciousness is just our being. How much time do we have? A lot. Thank you. Because I have done none of my prepared talk. I want to let you all know. I have no idea where I am. I mean, I'm looking down, but this is not the topic. So the pothole story was supposed to be part of the talk. So let me find the string and sort of pull it back in. It really is important to understand that we're all vulnerable to everything that we're kind of aware of, everything that's in our environment. So like some of you, I used to drive to work every day. And I had a commute that was about 35 miles long. I would commute into Washington. And I did it for so many years that it started out as a 40-minute commute from Columbia, and it ended up being a 90-minute commute by the time I started. But what I really want to talk about is the fact that I basically rode the same roads for all those years. And there was a period of time where I was driving on this road every day, and I would hear on my favorite channel, What's Bad About the Traffic channel, that there was a pothole, and this pothole was on my route. And then people started naming the pothole because it was actually getting bigger and bigger. So I'm hearing about this pothole vaguely, I remember. And then people at work were talking about it. Oh, there was an accident because of this pothole. This one particular place where I drove by. And I'm driving by and I have no knowledge of this pothole. No awareness until I start to hear these stories. So then what do you think I did? I started looking for the pothole. I'm in search of the pothole. I'm driving. So one day I see a pothole because there was a car in my vision that went into the pothole. It was a formidable pothole. I mean, it was probably a one-wheel pothole. But when you went in, people would often sort of lose their hubcap. So now what's happened? I'm on the same road. I know nothing of a pothole. I start hearing about it. I start looking for it. It's now in my consciousness. So the pothole was in the second lane, and I was a third lane driver, I don't know why, until I started learning about the pothole. Then I started, not because I wanted to be with the pothole, that's what I told myself. I just found myself switching over into that lane. More and more, you see, this pothole is becoming something in me. So one day, guess what? What do you think happened? I went into the pothole. I manifested it. This is what happens with our thoughts. It wasn't in my consciousness. I brought it into my consciousness. I'm not paying attention. Then there it is in my life. We're going to manifest, people. The best thing to do is to really be clear about what we're manifesting. So I manifested the pothole. So boom, I go into the pothole. Boy, am I surprised. Really, I was so innocent at that time, which is probably last year, but anyway. I drove to work, parked my car. One of the things I forgot to mention is before I actually fell into the pothole, I started having sort of like a physical response. And then after I went into the pothole, I really began to have this physical response, like anxiety. Because now I'm afraid of this pothole. So I've gone from it not being in my consciousness. Now I have a fear of this pothole. So when I would get in the vicinity, then I would actually kind of shake. I'd still go into that other lane. I don't get that. But I'm actually shaking. There's all this energy that's being brought into my being, all because of this pothole that I knew nothing about. So I was married at the time, and my husband is a pretty straight shooter, and I told him about this pothole. So guess what he told me? Don't look at it, dummy. I don't know that he said dummy, but it's probably was implied. He said, don't look at it. Have you ever tried to not look at something once you know about it? It was really hard. It really, really was. It amped up the energy. It amped up that, what am I going to do with this? But I had to stop looking at it. And I had to figure out how to stop looking at it. I mean, I could take a whole nother route to work, but that actually didn't pop up as an idea. So then I started making myself drive in other lanes, And with the intensity that I put into shifting and driving in other lanes, I began to think less and less about the pothole. So actually what was interesting is, as I began to think less and less about it, that energy went away, right? That dis-ease that I had with those thoughts that something was going to happen because of that pothole. It's really amazing. I mean, it's a simple pothole. How many potholes do we see in life on the road? But actually, just kind of, I was amazed at the way my thoughts moved through that whole process. And after a while, I forgot about the pothole. Maybe they filled it, I don't know. But I allowed that pothole to be, but just not be in the front row of my personal auditorium. Can you imagine? Like when you think of an auditorium, there could be 25 rows in it. That pothole didn't deserve space in the front row. That was such a wonderful freedom, right? So where's the love in this? I think the love was in the acceptance that that pothole could just be, and I could be, and we didn't have to intersect. That was such a freeing thought, because as I was on that slow journey to my nexus with that pothole, I did not have a conscious thought that I don't have to interact with the pothole, it can just be. How many things might happen in your life where you see it, and then you think, I gotta step in and do something. It happens to me all the time. People who know me are always getting free advice. So you hear the laughter because it actually happens a lot. But you know, here's the thing. Inside of me, there is an alert system. Remember I talked about the car. That alert system is actually my kind of mind-heart connection, showing me this is outside of what you desire, whatever the this is. So actually, when I'm giving advice, you all just have no idea how much I have to overcome this energy that's trying to stop me from giving you the good advice that I'm giving you. How loud does it have to be for you in your life, for you to know that there is a dis-ease with the desire that's in your heart? How loud? And when you hear it, when you hear that dis-ease, when you feel that energy that's counter, what do? You know, in the beginning I talked about having butterflies. Then I talked about having this sort of anxiety feeling. It's all the same energy. I just name it. How do I know which to name it? Because of the desire. Like, I want to get up and I want to talk. I want to share. I want to learn. So that's why I don't call that anxiety. I call that butterflies. But I'm afraid. And when I didn't tell you about the the pothole story, is that going back to the fact that every day I was driving into Washington, and I ultimately drove either to Virginia or Washington from Columbia for maybe 22 years or something, going to different parts. What I didn't say is that probably around year 15, my analytical brain began to have a calculus or equation for the possibilities of me dying in a car accident. I began to talk about it, right? Because everywhere I looked, every morning there were accidents, and there were people getting hurt, people dying. So I said, this must be my destiny. If I do it enough, it's going to happen to me. That was something that I spoke to people about. So I had created that nutritious bed for that pothole seed to rest in. Because you see, the pothole was the beginning of my undoing as a commuter in that route. So I was talking to people. I wasn't talking about the pothole. I was talking about the possibility that I was going to die or be in a bad accident. Pothole opportunistically roosted. It's all me. I created all of that. The joy, though, the joy in knowing that my mind can go where it wants anytime with not even a second's notice, is that by paying attention to my thoughts, I can catch it. I can catch something. By looking backwards, I can maybe put the story together. And remember, this is a story. These things did happen, but I'm filling it in. I don't know what's the truth. And I don't know that that's even really important. What's important is that I learned that I have to listen. And listening is not always with my ears. Most recently, I had an experience where I heard some negative self-talk in my head. What scared the bejeebies out of me was it didn't sound foreign. So that same phrase had been going around and around on the loop. But just at that time, I was in the right place to not only hear it, but to actually take note of it. So what do I do? affirmations. Treatment. Surround myself by people who, when I start demonstrating things that are counter to my heart's desire, they sort of can help reposition me. And I also have come to understand that this is just a part of being a human being. And that every time I find myself having these thoughts, I just compassionately forgive myself and just dust off and start over. Because what are my options? There's no brainectomy. Even if there were, I could probably retrain it. That's how much confidence I have in always being able to fight my good, fight my desire. I'm getting pretty good at it. But I'm also really, really good at applying the tools. So, if you're not sure about your signals, just spend a little time. Spend a little time listening, spend a little time looking. Like if blue is your favorite color and you don't see any blue in your home or in your wardrobe, start there. It's really small. Only thing we are supposed to be doing is just living our free, full life. That's it. Nothing else. That's all that's required, if that's even a requirement. How can we hold ourselves back? Oh yeah, I just did a whole talk about how we hold ourselves back. I'm sorry, I'm not saying you're not listening. I have no concept of what's going on with my cup, nor what time it is. Okay. So, would affirmations like my car is a pothole avoider help me? Maybe. But maybe not, because really, the pothole was just a symptom. The fear was in this belief that I actually could predict the future, that I actually was going to have an accident, that I actually would be named in my car. I mean, I literally talked to people about this for quite a while. I stopped. Thank you. So if there's anything I can leave you with, really, I think what Ernest Holmes wants us to do is just to know ourselves and know that we are worthier than we can ever imagine and that we are loved beyond belief. That's it. Please join me in this affirming prayer. There's one power in this universe, one power the back of all there is, and that power feeds every living and unliving, every being, every rock, every tree, every particle. And we are the full expression of the joy, the love, the creativity of this being. The power is ours. We are powerful beyond belief. And all we do is get up and be us. So it is.